Hello, I'm John Felt, and this is the weekly water outlook for the Southeast U.S. recorded on December 30th, 2012. Well, as you know, over most of the region, things have changed very significantly over the last couple weeks. What we see last week was a widespread soaking rain over almost all of Mississippi, all of Alabama, much of Georgia, and then the western part of the Carolinas. The area in yellow is 2 to 4 inches of rain. The red is 5 inches of rain. So really a soaking rainfall. Now, from a water resource standpoint, it would have been a little bit more welcome, Georgia into the Carolinas and Virginia, but it did fall for the most part in Mississippi and Alabama, and that area has been wet, as well as northwest Georgia. So we're beginning to get in a situation where we're not going to be talking as much about drought, but I'm going to be talking more about the potential for flooding and runoff over that area. So we really have a difference here between areas that could experience heavy rain that would result in flooding, other areas that would recharge water resources. Now, it's been a really long time since I showed a percent of normal for the last 7 days that showed such widespread above normal rainfall. This is 3 or 4 times normal rainfall for the week, and it fell over most of the area of the southeast U.S. Now, one thing that's sort of interesting to note, you might note that the parts of the southeast U.S. here, this area right here is in the drought, a very significant drought, and that received a pretty welcome rainfall over the last week. I'll be talking about that in just a bit. Now, I know the southeast U.S., at least parts of it, don't get a lot of snow, but I think it's important from a national perspective, so I'm going to be talking a bit about snow, sort of similar to what I talk about during hurricane season. And over the parts of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, mid-Mississippi, Tennessee Valley, there's been some significant snowfall. Matter of fact, 60% of the nation's covered in snow right now. And that will have an impact once it melts on water resources. So if we look at the southeast U.S., you see that there is some snowfall, some light amounts over higher elevations, and then as we get into the higher elevations in Virginia in particular, more significant snowfall. So most of the area, obviously not much snow, but I did want to give you an update on that. And as we go through the winter season, I'll also be talking about water equivalents because that will melt and impact water resources. But again, right now we're looking at snowfall over the southeast U.S. where you'd expect it over higher elevations. Now, as far as stream flow goes, this is what I was talking about as far as the blue are stream flows that are above normal. You can see here, right in here, this area here has been in the more active precipitation band. That's above normal. We still have over the eastern Carolinas below normal. That's that sort of the yellowish area, orange. And then here in the middle, it's interesting to see that for that stream flow average 7-day, it's actually returned to normal. It's been a long time since we've seen that. So there has been a little bit of water put into some of the streams. And I wanted to give you 2 examples here. This is the Flint River in Georgia, tributary, Kinchafoonee Creek. And this goes back into the start of 2011. So it's a daily stream flow that goes back for a fairly long period, 2 years. And you can note here, it's green is the normal stream flow, browns are below. And pretty much all the way since 2011 has been running not only below normal, but well below normal. Occasionally pops up. But look at this last week. Look how far it's popped up here. So it's been pretty unusual. It's been a long time since we've seen some tributaries in the central part of the state of Georgia actually show some response. Now, I'm not going to say that's a significant or prolonged response, but at least it's a start of something. We've got to start getting out of that drought. More significant, as we look further to the west in Alabama, this is a statewide average stream flow. And look what we see in Alabama, where the statewide average, after being in the normal range for quite some time, matter of fact, as we go through 2012, 2011 into 2012, below normal, then normal, and now we've really, from a statewide perspective, that Mississippi-Alabama region, now we're seeing stream flow well above normal, or above normal, I should say, or the high normal range. That'll be something I'm going to have to look at very closely because if it stays in that range, it's going to be more vulnerable to spring flooding, higher than normal probability. So we'll keep an eye on that. Okay, so, but still I think the big picture over that core of South Georgia, are below normal soil moisture. That's the area in brown here. So the core of drought can still take quite a few inches of rain. But we have seen improvement in December. This is a graph I'm going to put out in my newsletter this week. And I wanted to show from a perspective of the drought monitor, I've outlined areas, in the case of the southeast U.S., the white dashed line, where there's been significant improvement in December. And look how much of that drought area, the area of red, the more severe drought, has experienced some degree of improvement. That's very welcome. We've seen some 2-3 inch rains over the month through much of that area, and it's not eliminating the drought. We still need a lot more, but it definitely has put some dent into the drought, much more than we've seen in the past number of months. It's also sort of interesting over the northern plains, different type of drought relief. There's a snowpack over that area. And once that melts, that's going to help a bit in that region as well. If we look at Lake Lanier, very critical water supply reservoir just north of Atlanta. The area, the red is the forecast for the next number of days. And what you see there is that there has been a little bit of a bump up from the recent rainfall. And even though the lake elevation is not going to see a drastic change up, at least it's trending along the historical line. That's that yellow-orange line. It's tracking along that closer than it has been before this recent rain. Now, you're probably getting tired of me talking about teleconnections, but it really is a driver of precipitation trends during the winter months in the absence of an El Nino or La Nina. And we're in that neutral ENSO right now. So we've been in this, from a short-term teleconnection, we've been in a negative phase Arctic oscillation for quite some time. As a matter of fact, it entered generally a negative phase in November, and ever since then it's sort of been jumping up and down, but it's been negative. So for a prolonged period, we've seen that negative Arctic oscillation. I mentioned last week that it was some signs that it was going to switch into positive. That's not all that unusual because about every 2-3 weeks it does alternate. And what we see now is that the models are showing that it's going to be very soon going into a positive phase Arctic oscillation. I'm going to talk a bit about what that'll do as we switch. Okay, what I have here is I have early in the week is the blue, and that's where the jet stream is going to be. And it's sort of a southwest flow. It sort of dips down fairly deep. And that's why there will be some snow over parts of the Midwest, and there'll be a rain event over the southeast U.S. But later in the week, look at how it shifts up to the north. The primary jet stream early in the week is this jet stream, and the primary jet stream is up here later in the week. And that's in that response to the shift from a negative to a positive Arctic oscillation. Now there are still signs of a southwest jet, and that could bring us additional precipitation over the southeast U.S., but generally speaking, this is not as conducive of a pattern for more significant rainfall over the southeast U.S. Now, we are going to have that early week event during the transition, but once it moves in, it might be a bit quieter. Now, I wanted to show from a big picture, this is the upper jet stream during the middle part of the week, and these blue dashed lines here are anomalies of pressure. And when you see these blue dashed lines, those are negative anomalies, and it's basically saying the jet stream is further south, cold air is further south. So we see that over parts of the nation, early or towards the middle of the week, we had those negative anomalies. But look at late this week. We have red over almost the entire nation. Look how far the jet stream has lifted up. The jet stream is generally up here. I mentioned we still have a little bit of a southerly jet, but it's really a very weak southerly jet, not likely to bring a whole lot of moisture into the area or energy for lift for that moisture. But if we look at the 7-day forecast for precipitation, this primarily reflects the early week jet stream system that's moving through a frontal passage, and it does bring some significant rainfall, again, over Alabama, Mississippi, a bit further south. So if it was further north, I think we talk about some flooding. There could be some flooding problems because we are vulnerable in those regions, and then that pushes into parts of Georgia. I don't think this is going to be as significant as the rain that we had last week, but still it'll be over the areas of drought, and it'll be one more beneficial rain over that area, even though it doesn't look all that heavy. Another inch of rain would certainly be welcome. After that, this is the longer range model. I did want to point that looks like there will be a break then for maybe a week after this first rain event goes through. And maybe on the 9th, there could be some more rain, January 9th, in that area. There's actually, the models are showing a fairly strong system developing at that time. But it's so far out there. Right now, I just think the main points are that after this early week system, there will be a break until at least towards the end of the first week in January. So the trends and threats this week, there is the threat for very heavy rainfall over the southern part of Mississippi and Alabama, and I'll have to keep an eye on that. Even though that hasn't received as much rain as further north, there is a possibility of some isolated flooding. Elsewhere, it looks like a soaking December rainfall. I think the rain generally is modest for this time of year, and nothing that's going to cause too much of a problem other than continue to saturate soils over northern Alabama and Mississippi, and a welcome rainfall where it falls over Georgia. So the takeaway points for this week's briefing, we're transitioning from a negative to a positive Arctic oscillation. Be some modest rainfall event early, snow up to the north. Overall, a quieter period as we get into this positive AO, and most likely a milder temperature period as well. The next rainfall after this early week, like I said, 9th to 11th, roughly speaking, but that's way out there, so I have to keep an eye on that. I want to wish everybody a happy New Year's. I'm going to be issuing my newsletter later this week, probably towards the middle of the week. Any monthly precipitation summaries will be going out as well. And I hope to provide you a lot of good information from Blue Water Outlook in 2013. So enjoy your new year, and I'll be speaking with you again next week.